In 2016, at Wimbledon, a reporter asked Nick Kyrgios a question that almost nobody asks a professional athlete.
Do you enjoy this sport? Is it something that you really love and enjoy, or do you find it more frustrating than enjoyable?
Yeah, I mean, at times, like, you know, I've previously said that, you know, I don't love the sport, but you know, I don't really know what else to do without it. So, you know, I obviously like playing the game. It's a massive part of my life, but you know, I don't know whether, you know, I don't really know.
He was 21 years old, seeded 15th, the youngest man left in the draw at Wimbledon, and he'd just been taken apart by Andy Murray in straight sets. In that same room, a reporter asked him whether he felt he was applying himself the best he could. He answered with one word: no. Now, every player who has ever sat in that chair after a loss like that knows the script. You say you'll work harder, you say you'll come back stronger, you say the right things, and everybody goes home. He didn't bother. He told them he'd woken up that morning and played computer games. Asked whether that was the greatest preparation for a Wimbledon fourth round. He said he didn't know, but it was fun. Watching from the BBC commentary box was a man with 7 Grand Slam titles, 3 of them at Wimbledon. John McEnroe said Kyrgios doesn't understand what it takes to be someone who wins Grand Slams at this level. He said he hoped Kyrgios would see the writing on the wall before it became chronic and irreparable. That was 10 years ago. And that's the strange thing about this man, because when you go back and listen to what the other players actually said about him, the ones who practiced with him, lost to him, shouted at him across a net, you find that almost every single one of them said the same 2 things. Not one of them disputed the first. Not one of them could explain the second. It ends on a Wimbledon court in July of this year, but it starts on one 12 years earlier. And to understand why that matters, you have to see what he did the first time he walked out there. Before we get there, you need the other half of the picture. Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios were born nearly 8 years apart, but they shared a decade of the same tour. Same tournaments, same courts, same draws. One of them treated his own body like a research project, rebuilt his diet, rebuilt his movement, turned recovery into a science, and was still winning majors in his late 30s. The other has said, on the record, that he grew up hating the sport, that he only played it because his mother made him, and that if it were up to him, he'd stop tomorrow. Same era, same opportunity, opposite method. They'd meet in a Wimbledon final. And the thing Djokovic said afterwards is the last quote in this video's case, so hold on to him. July the 1st, 2014, Center Court. A 19-year-old Australian wildcard, ranked 144th in the world, playing his first ever Wimbledon. 2 days earlier, he'd saved 9 match points to survive Richard Gasquet. Before that fortnight, he had never beaten a top 50 player in his life, not one. Across the net is the world number 1, Rafael Nadal. 37 aces, a between-the-legs winner, hit on the run for a clean point, an ace on match point to close it out at love. 7-6, 5-7, 7-6, 6-3. He became the first player ranked outside the world's top 100 to beat a world number 1 at a Grand Slam in 22 years. The first man in a decade to reach the Wimbledon quarterfinals on his debut. Remember that court. We're coming back to it. He was 19. It was his second major. And it wasn't a fluke. The following year, he beat Roger Federer in their first meeting. 2 years after that, Novak Djokovic in theirs. In the entire history of the sport, only one other man has beaten all 3 of them the very first time he played them. That man was Lleyton Hewitt. He won 2 Grand Slams and finished a year as world number 1. And there was one man watching in 2014 who wasn't surprised at all, because he'd already hit with Kyrgios in Switzerland, months before any of this. And 18 months later, he'd say something about him that reads today like a prophecy. At the Australian Open in 2016, Federer was asked about him. He said he'd been unbelievably impressed by the sheer power, the talent, the potential, and that it went all the way back to that first practice. That's the part everybody agrees on. The talent was never in question. It was never going to be in question. But in the same conversation, Federer added the warning. He said the next couple of years would be crucial. He said too many guys have talent, and too many guys work hard. So talent, on its own, isn't something he believes in very much anymore. Think about that for a second. The most naturally gifted player of his generation, being told by the most elegant player who ever lived that being gifted isn't the point. 2 years later, in Shanghai, Federer said it again, plainer. He called Kyrgios a great player, and then he said he'd never fulfill his potential without the work ethic to go with it. Quick pause here to ask you, if you're new here, to subscribe to my channel. Your support means everything in helping me continue to bring fresh tennis videos to you. But let's talk about Acapulco. February 2019. Kyrgios is ranked 72nd in the world. He's playing the top seed in the second round, and he's ill. He'd say afterwards that he thought about walking off after the first set. He loses that set. He goes down in the deciding tiebreak. He faces 3 match points. He saves all 3, and then, with the match still hanging, he serves underarm. The crowd boos him. He wins the point anyway. He wins the match. And then he turns to the stadium and cups his hand behind his ear, asking for more of it. 3 match points saved, the top seed beaten. The handshake at the net lasts about a second and a half. And then, in a press room a few hundred feet away, the man he'd just beaten said the sentence that has followed Nick Kyrgios for the rest of his career. We're coming back to what Nadal said, but to understand why it landed the way it did, why that one sentence stuck to him harder than anything else anyone ever said, we need to jump forward 3 years first, to another tournament, and another opponent who lost it completely, on camera. Wimbledon, 3rd round, July 2022. Stefanos Tsitsipas is the 4th seed. He's beaten by Kyrgios in 4 sets. And during the match, he does something almost unheard of at that level. He deliberately hits a ball at his opponent. Then he smashes another one into the crowd and is lucky not to be thrown out of the tournament. Kyrgios spends the afternoon demanding the Greek be defaulted. He is warned for swearing. He'd already been fined $10,000 that week for spitting toward a heckler. And then both men walk into their press conferences.
Yeah, it's constant bullying. That's what he does. He bullies his opponents. He was probably a bully at school himself. You don't know what's behind. I don't like bullies. I don't like people that put other people down. He has some good traits in his character as well, but when he also has a very evil side to him, which if it's exposed, it can really do a lot of harm and bad to the people around him.
That is the 4th seed at Wimbledon, on the record, at the biggest tournament in tennis, calling his opponent evil.
I don't know what to say. I'm not sure how I bullied him. He was the one hitting balls at me. He was the one that hit a spectator. He was the one that smacked it out of the stadium. I didn't do anything. I was actually apart from me just going back and forth to the umpire a fair bit, I did nothing towards Stefanos today that was disrespectful. I don't think. I was not drilling him with balls. I don't know. I don't know what to say. But, what do you think?
I mean, he went as far as saying that he thinks that some of the players should get together and talk about you or talk to you and try to deal with what you're bringing onto the court and how it
I'll be pretty upset if I lost to someone 2 weeks in a row as well. Maybe he should figure out how to beat me a couple more times first and then get to that.
Both men were fined. Kyrgios went on to the quarterfinals. And that was Wimbledon 2022. A fortnight in which he reached his first Grand Slam final and picked up at $14,000 in fines along the way. Which brings us back to Acapulco, because Tsitsipas was angry. Nadal was something worse. Nadal was disappointed.
y hoy le ha salido bien y ha ganado. Lo que pasa es que cuando uno se dedica a hacer todo este show, al final un jugador que en teoría tiene el talento para ganar el Grand Slam, un jugador que en teoría tiene el talento para estar luchando en las primeras posiciones del ranking, pues por algo está donde está, ¿no? Y es un jugador muy peligroso, pero un jugador que le ha faltado continuidad y por algún motivo será. Dicho esto, no creo que sea un mal chico, para nada, creo que es un buen chico, lo que le falta un poquito de respeto para el público, para el rival y hacia sí mismo también. Eso es lo que creo que debe de...
That's the whole video in one press conference. And the talent is not in dispute, and the talent is stated as fact by the greatest competitor of his era. And in the very next breath, so is the waste. Kyrgios' response was to say that he and Rafa are different people, that Nadal doesn't know the journey he's been through, so he wasn't going to listen, which makes what happened 8 days after that Tsitsipas match so strange. Because Kyrgios kept winning. Same fortnight, same tournament, all the way to the final. July 2022, center court, the first Grand Slam final of his life, at 27, and he's playing Novak Djokovic, a man he had publicly called a tool, and worse. He'd arrived there ranked 40th in the world, unseeded, the first unseeded man to reach a Grand Slam final in 14 years. He takes the first set. He loses the next 3. 6 weeks later, he'd beat the world number 1, Daniil Medvedev, and reach the quarterfinals of the US Open. And at 27, everything everyone had been waiting a decade for was finally happening. And then, holding the trophy on center court, Djokovic turns to him.
I really respect you a lot. I think you are a phenomenal tennis player, an athlete, an amazing talent. I mean, you've been hearing all of that for many years. But now, you know, everything is starting to come together for you. So I'm sure we're going to see much of you in the later stages of a Grand Slam, man. And I never thought I'm going to say so many nice things about you, considering the relationship. Okay, it's officially a bromance. All right.
And there it is. Every single one of them, Federer, Nadal, Tsitsipas, Djokovic, said the same 2 things about Nick Kyrgios. Number 1, the talent is extraordinary. Number 2, something is being wasted. The only difference was the tone. Federer said it kindly, Nadal said it coldly, Tsitsipas said it furiously, Djokovic said it hopefully. Not one of them said it was going to be fine. So what did all of that talent actually win? There's a number, and it explains why the praise never quite added up. 7 ATP titles, 1 Grand Slam final, lost, 1 Grand Slam trophy, the 2022 Australian Open in doubles, alongside his friend Thanasi Kokkinakis. A career-high ranking of 13, reached in 2016, and never bettered. That is the entire return on a talent that Roger Federer called unbelievable, that Rafael Nadal said should have been winning majors, that Novak Djokovic said belonged at the business end of Grand Slams. 1 final, 1 doubles title. That's it. And remember the other man who beat Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic the first time he played them. Lleyton Hewitt turned that into 2 majors, and a year as the best player in the world. Kyrgios turned it into a runner-up plate. And here's the thing that separates Kyrgios from every other cautionary tale in this sport. He never argued. He said he'd wanted basketball. He said his parents pushed him. He said, at 20, that he still didn't love the sport. And at 28, that he was probably happiest when he wasn't playing it at all. He said his relationship with tennis was never a love relationship. The critics called it wasted talent. He'd have called it a job he never applied for. And there was one person, on that same afternoon in 2016, who didn't pile on. Andy Murray had just beaten him. He was asked about Kyrgios too.
I mean, everyone's different. It's about, you know, finding the right people to help you with, you know, different things. You know, for some it may be, you know, a coach. For some it might be a psychologist. Sometimes it can be speaking to family about stuff. It's not, you know, there's not one way of tackling it. But, you know, if you want to continue to get better, then you speak and listen to, you know, as many people as you can and take on board the things that you think will help you. And
McEnroe said he didn't understand what it takes. Murray said he needed help. Then his body finished the argument for both of them. Knee surgery, wrist surgery, 3 operations in total. After the end of 2022, he played 7 tour matches in 3 years. In all of 2025, he won 1 singles match. At Indian Wells that March, his wrist gave out mid-match, and he walked off in tears. In December 2023, he said that if it were up to him, he wouldn't play anymore, that he was exhausted, that he'd had 3 surgeries, that he couldn't get up in the morning and walk without pain. He was 28 years old. January 2026, Brisbane. The comeback everyone had waited 3 years for. He's beaten in 66 minutes by a man who says afterwards that Kyrgios is hard to prepare for because you never know whether he's healthy. And then in July, he goes back to Wimbledon, the place we told you we'd return to. The same club, the same fortnight, the same grass, where a 19-year-old wildcard hit 37 aces past the best player in the world and changed his own life in an afternoon. 12 years later, he isn't in the singles draw. He isn't ranked anywhere close to highly enough. He's hundreds of places outside the top 100, and the All England club gives him a wild card into the doubles instead. Court 17, not center, first round. He and Alexander Bublik lose to the 6th seeds 6-3, 6-4 in 55 minutes. Afterwards, he said he was pretty confident that was his last Wimbledon. He said this had always been the place where he played his best tennis, that his career started there, and his life changed forever because of it. Asked whether it was the end of everything, he said he had too many thoughts right now. 10 years earlier, in a press room at the same tournament, a 21-year-old had been asked whether he even enjoyed the sport, and he said he didn't really know what was ahead after today. A decade apart, same club, same non-answer. He still didn't know, but that wasn't the last thing he said on a Wimbledon court. Because early in the second set, he dropped his serve. At the changeover, he turned to the chair umpire and started swearing at him. Now, he knew exactly what happens next. A code violation, then a fine. It's the same machinery that had cost him $14,000 at this tournament in 2022, and $113,000 in a single night in Cincinnati. So he got in front of it. He told the umpire to go ahead and fine him, that he honestly didn't even care. Because for 12 years, the fines had been the price of being Nick Kyrgios. The cost of the show, something he paid and complained about and paid again. From 37 aces on center court to a wild card on court 17. And the last thing anybody heard from Nick Kyrgios at the place that made him was a man telling an official to go ahead and fine him, because it didn't matter anymore. So how bad was Nick Kyrgios? Federer told him not to waste it. McEnroe said he didn't understand what it takes. Murray said he needed help. Nadal said there's a reason he is where he is. Tsitsipas said there was something evil in him. Djokovic said he belonged at the top, and that we'd see much more of him. And the whole time, in interview after interview, Kyrgios was quietly telling everybody the same thing, that he'd never wanted any of it in the first place. The great player saw a talent that was thrown away. His fans saw the only player in the sport honest enough to say out loud what it actually cost him. Maybe all of them were right. So which one are you? Tell me in the comments, waste or honesty. And if you want more stories like these, please check out the channel and subscribe if you're new here. See you in the next one.